What's going on, everyone? So there have been chatter for, I want to say about 2 years now, roughly, of a new Goonies movie as well as a new Gremlins movie. But Warner Brothers has officially confirmed that they are developing both films, that they are giving us a new adaptation of both of those films. And look, we are in the age and era where all classics get turned and converted into, modern adaptations. And some have been horrid, some of them have just been terrible, some of them have been okay, some of them have been pretty good. They're never really what they were when they were, first created. And, I think a lot of that is just, timing. Gotta keep in mind, a lot of these films, right, are products of the time, right? Like a lot of things just in general, right? From, art to, story to film to whatever, right? It's just kind of right place and right time. And Gremlins is one of those things where I do think you could, with modern technology, kind of a good, well flushed out story and script and development, I do think you can make a really good Gremlins movie. Might have a just cute little Gizmo, and just think of like the baby Yoda thing. You kind of get Gizmo back into the world of just pop culture and stuff like that. So I do think that there is a real path to a Gremlins film, and kind of creating this new adaptation of that and kind of introducing that to a new audience and stuff. And I think that that is something that people would really gravitate to. You kind of get a nice little balance of horror and comedy and a little in between. Kind of reminds me of like Ghostbusters and like the success the more modern Ghostbusters have had. And kind of like, hey, you know what? There might be something here, right? You get a guy like a Paul Rudd to operate this, and then boom, you're in business, right? The Goonies, however, that's the one that I kind of question. Now, on the surface, people might think like, oh man, it's, kind of like a kid's adventure. You know, those usually have success, like a family friendly adventure that, you can kind of go down this route. Do they kind of go that route? Do they go more mature, like PG-13 route? Do they make it kind of more horror, right? Because, I mean, it was this like grand quest, right? Like, so, but again, like, something like the Goonies, I think, was just a product of its time. Again, it was just like perfect time, perfect place. You kind of look at where the world was at that time and just the storytelling, and you look at things that kind of followed or were right before, like like the Peter Pan movies, were like Hook and all these things, like these adventure quests, like Tom and Sawyer and all these things where, or what was it, Tom and Huck, right, with Jonathan Taylor Thomas and stuff like that. Like you were in this time of those like fun kid adventures, right? Like, and I mean, there have been these great, just young, story adventure, Stand By Me, right? Like things like that just, I think were, it was just the right place, right time. It kind of had this like this window of just, hey, there's like a lot of these movies and a lot of these different variations. And of course, when Goonies has success, all of a sudden they want to do these copycats, because Hollywood is a very copycat league, and stories are a very copycat league, right? So movies are a very copycat league. So I'm curious about the Goonies, right? Like, is that something that they're going to be able to kind of recapture lightning in a bottle? Or is this going to be one of those ones that they just kind of botch and destroy, and all of us were just kind of like, yeah, they didn't need to make a Goonies movie? Because, again, you're talking about an all-time classic film. Talking about a film that, really just, again, we've gotten so many kind of, like, those kid adventures that have really, through the 90s and even early 2000s and stuff, that really captivated audiences. And you look at something like the Gremlins, like, again, that is something, again, a classic, something that I really hope that they don't botch. It's really something that I hope that they don't, because, I don't want a bad Gremlins movie, right? Like, even like the Gremlins 2 and stuff, I love those movies, right? Like, you keep some water lying around and it's a bad night, right? And all the antics, and just, I that is something I think that you could make a real successful film on. I think that's something that, you know, you can kind of get to be in the zeitgeist and the pop culture and stuff. And like I said, kind of have like the Baby Yoda trend, but now with Gizmo. Right? Gizmo's something that's always kind of been and popped up randomly, but I think you can make him more because that's, yeah, I mean, Gizmo is Gremlins, right? Like everything stems from Gizmo, but he's somebody that relates to all ages and all audiences and stuff like that. So that's something that I think if you really do that right, if you really hit on that correctly, if you really kind of head that in the proper direction and have a good script and story and whatever, and you don't end up botching it like a lot of these films have been happening lately, right? We're in the era of remakes, we're in the era of requels and direct sequels and legacy sequels and all these little different taglines that they add to these films. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know, if you're going to lack originality from a story standpoint, you got to make sure that you really flush out that recreated idea, right? Like, you can't just like, oh, just throw a name on it or something and it's just garbage, right? Like, and that's the problem. Like a lot of these studios, I feel like they look at the name attached to the film rather than the quality of film itself. And they think that like, oh, that's a key to success, right? Like, oh, if we just make Gremlins movie, it's going to make money. Like, no, like, yeah, it'll probably make money, but you're not going to be able, like, there is a path where Gremlins is this like massive franchise once again. And something like the Goonies, kind of talk about, well, something like the Goonies, I think there's only as far of a threshold as you can get to, even if it is a great story and stuff. But I think Gremlins is the one that you can, if done correctly, could really kind of catapult what you want from, just a studio and marketing standpoint and sequels and merchandise and toys and again, pop culture and having X, Twitter, all those things like, just really kind of giving you that free marketing and promotion and advertisement and stuff like that. It just kind of gives you that cute, classic, iconic character that just has stood the test of time, right? But something like the Goonies, I do worry about that being this kind of, period piece almost. Right? It was just like the perfect time. You had all these iconic, child adventures. I mean, even things that aren't like are close but not quite, like even like the Little Rascals, I'd argue, right? Like I just think that there's several films in that time, because you got to think the Goonies came out 1985, right? So again, you had all these things that came out after and all these other films, and like I said, Stand By Me, and then later on you got all these like these Peter Pan adaptations and The Hook, and again, like I said, Little Rascals and all these things into the early 90s and into the early 2000s, right? You just had this like decade or so of just, that was like the trend, that was the thing, right? And it's just, now you kind of, is that something that is going to be popular today? I don't know. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Phil, what are your thoughts? Do you think that, yes, both films will have success? Do you think Gremlins, are you excited for either film? Or do you kind of like, I don't really care for either? How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are. Either way, love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.